Cheyenne Bernard, Chapter 6 speech. Many people in our society need help who are not getting the proper support that they need. What would you do to help a loved one? Guns and mental health have been connected in the news lately. In general, guns are not the cause of tragedy. The cause of tragedy is as a country we are failing our sick. Nevada County and Nevada State has devised a solution to helping our mentally sick. They're court ordering any minor crime committed by someone who appears to have a mental illness into a treatment center instead of sending them straight into jail. The treatment centers also allow free individuals to come seek help. Another state that has reported for mental disorders is Washington State. Over 1 in 3 state prisoners, 1 in 4 federal prisoners, and 1 in 6 jail inmates received mental attention since they were arrested. That's a very low number that should be higher. Nearly a quarter of both state prisoners and jail inmates who had a mental health problem were compared to a fifth of all state prisoners and inmates without mental illness who served 3 or more prior incarcerations. That means that people with mental disorders are more likely to end up in jail than a healthy individual. Guns in the hands of a killer is an issue that is separate from helping or overlooking our country's historical and how our country currently is not providing proper health care for our mentally sick citizens. In 1840, U.S. reformer Dorothea Dix noticed that mentally ill men and women in Massachusetts were incarcerated as a common criminal. This was a common practice back in the olden days, where wealthy families would lock up or send their children who misbehaved or didn't agree with the rest of the family to an insane asylum or into prison. Dorothea Dix was a reporter who went undercover to Blackwell Island in New York, where she noticed that many of the patients were mistreated and malnourished. This is a picture, my first visual aid, of Blackwell Island as it appeared in the early 1900s. I apologize that I don't have a place to display my visual aids where you could be able to see them. The first meal that Dorothea had when she arrived at Blackwell Island was stale bread, weak soup, and thin slices of fatty meat, while the doctors and nurses feasted on fruits, vegetables, rich breads, and thick slices of meat, showing that the patients were mistreated back then, and we've come a long way since then, where I've read many reports, positive and negative, of patients' personal accounts in psychiatric hospitals. The positive mostly coming from patients who knew they had a mental disorder and sought help. Most of the negative came from patients who didn't believe they had a mental disorder and thought that it was a terrible, terrible waste of their time. Some statistics from today. Mental illness healthcare accounts for 6% of all healthcare costs in America. Yet it has a $50 billion cost on people too mentally disabled to support themselves. This includes the story of Karen Kelly, who suffers from depression. Karen went to the doctor many times seeking help for her depression. Healthcare costs wouldn't cover it for her, and she could not afford to cover it herself. Depression, suicide seemed like the only option for Karen. Luckily, she failed in her suicide attempt. But swallowing a whole bottle of pills let healthcare pay for her treatments. Today, Karen is living with her depression. She's managed it, it is under control, and she's living her life the best that she can. Lawmakers who refuse to support effective gun safety measures often talk about scanning mentally ill patients for would-be perpetrators of committing mass shootings. However, lawmakers don't say how we could scan them in a proper and appropriate manner, or how we could provide health care or help for these individuals. They only want to talk about gun rights and gun control. Through my research, I've seen that the best possible solution into helping our sick in this nation is to follow in Nevada's footsteps, where we set up treatment centers throughout the state and throughout counties instead of funding prisons so heavily. With these treatment centers, free individuals, imprisoned individuals, and individuals prior to filling out their court-ordered sentence could all receive help and be safe. USA Today quotes President Obama as saying, "We're going to need to work on making access to mental health care as easy as it is to access a gun." I disagree. Those two terms should not be connected. They are two separate issues that both need to be addressed, but not together. My second visual aid is a piece of propaganda of a mentally ill citizen reading a sign saying access to mental health care, which follows the pyramid to the top, and the old man in the chair being mental health care. However, there are signs distracting our mental health citizen from climbing the stairs and pointing into the gun shop. It's depicting that mentally ill citizens would rather commit violence than seek help, and that is false. There are many citizens in our country who don't know that they need help, and every citizen in this country has the right to bear arms as per the Second Amendment in the United States Constitution. Helping our sick should be a natural reflex, and shadowing the true problems with heated debate over gun rights is only causing more issues, and it's not solving how we can help our sick in this beautiful nation.